Over 6 years ago, I reviewed the 16-55 on my T1, and although I declared it a winner and a definite choice for my professional work if I were to go back to zooms, I subsequently carried on with my absolute love for using prime lenses for my photography work and never bothered to give it another thought. That is until now. Yes, it's 2023 and I finally bought this, one of Fujifilm's best lenses ever. Let's talk about why. Oh, and in the name of real-time testing, all the video and stills in this video are shot with my XF 16-55mm on the T4, and the 16-55mm you'll actually see is a loaner from Fujifilm UK. Right, that's that test done. Let's crack on with the rest. Now, I know we looked at the spec 6 years ago, but again, I'm testing this lens, well, mine up there, in this situation to see if it's going to work out for me. And looking on the back of the screen, I think this is going to be a winner. I did think it was going to be a little heavy for my setup, but it seems to be sitting quite stable. I don't have to mess about with that. Yes, so of course, it's not internal zoom 16-55, which gives you a 24-84mm 35mm format equivalent, angle of view of 83.2 to 29 degrees, 9 diaphragm blades, 16 elements in 12 groups. Of course, as the R would tell you, and I believe I can get nice and close. I wonder how close I can get. That's probably the limit there. Nice clicky aperturing with the A mode at the end. There's no lock for the A mode, but that's fine. I'll be working mainly around the 2.8, 4, etc. 2.8 working, and anyway, you get the idea. Closest focusing distance of 60 centimeters. Now, the old spec spoke about the macro modes, but we'll just leave it at that for now. We've got a 0.16 times telephoto magnification ratio, filter size of 77. This loaner from Fujifilm UK, as always, has got a little protector on it. I'm not using them myself, but absolutely no harm doing it. Get a good quality one and you're away. I used to do it all the time. Maybe I should get back into that habit, especially as I'm getting older and things I'm more prone to dropping. Weather resistance, it is 655 grams, so you know, not the smallest lens, and I think that's kind of what put me off the zooms when I first moved over to Fujifilm, just the sheer size and weight, which I was trying to get away from. I did shoot zooms a long time ago professionally and enjoyed it on Nikon, but then fell in love more with primes and that carried over. Anyway, we're waffling. Has this little test worked out? Just to mention, of course, we're using AFC on my T4, single point focus in the middle. I mean, I suppose if I come away from the frame, which I wouldn't in this sort of shot, yeah, I mean, what more do we need to say? I think, at least looking on the back of the screen, this is a win. This lens could well become the go-to even for all this YouTube nonsense. Let's carry on. Granted, as my copy of the lens just came through the door, I took it around Stratford upon Avon in tourist mode to check it out. It's not my usual setup for sightseeing, but it's just for the crack and the samples and to give my copy of the lens a good run through. I already know what the lens can do, having used it a lot in the past. But yeah, that's what you're seeing today. Now, having paid for the lens, I obviously love it, but let's just talk about a few cons. It's clearly big and heavy. This is relative, personal, but in part, it's why I never really turned my heart from shooting primes with Fujifilm up until now, give or take using my 50-140 on certain jobs. The lack of OIS was also a small problem, but the bodies with IBIS more than make up for this now. For most of my photography work, it will stay on my T4 and my 50-140 on the T3 until I upgrade that body for one with IBIS. Finally, another con for some is the fact that the aperture ring can't be declicked, but I'm yet to see a Fujifilm X series camera capable of smooth video transitions when changing aperture during a take. So let's just leave that one there. Pros. Well, it's built to last and to work with. Add to that the dust and the moisture protection. It's good to go in almost any environment. Now, even though it is big and heavy, it feels like a workhorse, and with the right handling, the size and weight is a minor issue for me. The aperture ring is spot on, and the manual focusing is very decent too. The 77mm filter ring is standard for me, and most of the filters that come through my door for testing are also 77. As it happens, my copy of the lens did come with a UV fitted for protection, as did this loaner from Fujifilm. As I don't shoot fast moving subjects that often, I've never been that worried about the autofocusing limitations of this whole system. Now, I appreciate some still aren't seeing the continuous focusing performance they need, but this lens at least gets you closer to the best that Fujifilm has to offer. Now, as you could see in the intro, the up close section, this section, and the B-roll showing the combo, the autofocus is well served by the linear motors, and so far I think it's the best option in my kit for video recording, focusing and all that. What do you reckon? Let us know in the comments. Sharpness is generally very good to excellent in the center and doesn't drop off much towards the edges. It performs pretty similar across the zoom range. Color rendering is Fujifilm's typical top quality, and the contrast is spot on. Now at 16mm, there is a little bit of color fringing, wide open, but nothing of concern. Using lens corrections, distortion is minimal and doesn't affect my images. The same automatic corrections look after vignetting too. Now bokeh, it's not that bad. It's a bit busy with foliage, as you can see in the samples, but you know, it's okay. And the lens though, it is a joy to work with up close. Get the background right, of course. So I feel this is going to be a good one for my product images, as well as getting closer in my product videos going forward. I mean, there's examples throughout this video. Let us know again what you think. Overall, I gotta say the image quality is spot on, exactly what you'd expect, more or less, from a lens at this end of the market. If you shop around, you can find a very decent copy of this lens for around £650 used here in the UK, which isn't bad value at all in this day and age. Brand new, it's £979, so set up for working professionals or amateurs who don't mind spending almost £1,000. I imagine if a new version ever comes out, which should have OIS, it's going to cost a lot more typically. For me then, this is an excellent investment. It won't feature in my travel kit, partly on size and practicality levels, but it may well replace a lot of my other lenses for photography work, filming myself like this, shooting up close product videos and stills as we're seeing in this video. And for me, that is brilliant. On events and weddings, it's just way more practical to have this 16-55 and my 50-140 to cover every possibility and not have to change lenses. The ISO performance for most of my work is more than good enough, and with the addition of DxO Pure RAW, I can squeeze that extra bit more out of the file when it gets a bit touch and go at high ISO. That for me is really only for when I do my large indoor group shots, and that's just a few times a year. But yeah, Fujifilm, let's get onto it. Maybe then I'll go back to my Nikon Zoom days where I'd have a similar combo up until the wedding reception, for example, where I then switch my big heavy telephoto out for a lighter prime tele with a wider aperture, get that extra bit of light capability, get some weight off the shoulder, and that gives me a little boost for the last couple of hours on the job. In that case, this would be paired up with the 56mm or the 75-1.2 from Viltrox, though that isn't particularly light. It's still way lighter than the 50-140. But that's another story for another day, maybe. Let us know in the comments what you think about the 16-55, and yeah, I'll see you there.